Welcome. We're from the University of Alaska Anchorage, and we're presenting to you today a project around strengthening behavioral health through a cultural identity development program, an elder-led curriculum for Alaska Native University students. My name is Sara Buckingham, and I'm a European American assistant professor at the university, working primarily in our clinical community psychology PhD program, and I'm leading this project and coordinating it.
My name is JC Hutchinson. I am Koyukan Athabaskan from the interior of Alaska. I'm currently a PhD student in the clinical community psychology program here at the University of Alaska Anchorage. And I initially began involvement in this project as a research assistant, and then later I transitioned into becoming a community advisory board member.
My name is Tiara, and my Yupik name is Upilok. I am a PhD student in the Clinical Community Psychology program here at UAA. Right now, I'm a graduate research assistant for this project, and I'm currently helping facilitate the program with our elders.
My name is Amber Christensen Fulmer. I am born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. I'm Inupiaq, Choctaw, Swedish, Irish, and Russian. I'm currently the Director of Native Student Services and an assistant professor in the Human Services Department. I'm fully educated in the University of Alaska system, and I'm currently a PhD student in the Indigenous Studies program at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I am also a member of the Community Advisory Board for the Cultural Identity Project.
Today, we're going to share with you where this project came from, where we were just a couple of years ago as we were developing it, where we are in the strange world of COVID-19 and finally piloting our project this year, and where we're planning to go with this project in the future.
We at the University of Alaska Anchorage are on the land of the Dena'ina. In saying that, I would like to recognize that we are currently recording this on the ancestral lands of the Dena'ina people. We humbly thank them for allowing us to be on this land. We recognize our responsibility to the lands we are on and the people who came before us. We are honored to continue our stewardship for these lands and their peoples. Alaska is made up of 8 primary cultures: Unguntan, Inupiaq, Athabaskan, Tlingit, Haida, Tsimshian, Eyak, Yupik, Chupik, Siberian Yupik, Sugpiaq, Alutiiq. Alaska also has 231 federally recognized tribes that blanket the state. Each culture speaks their own language, which is also connected to the land as you see on this map. My family is from the Nose area of Alaska, and we are Inupiaq.
This project came to be from significant behavioral health disparities that exist among Alaska Native young people. Alaska Native young people have higher rates of depression, of anxiety, substance use, and suicidality, among other challenging health issues. And we know that many of these health issues have come because of cultural loss. Many of us at this conference have a strong understanding that our colonization of places around the world and the systems of cultural oppression that colonization has brought with it has significantly impacted people, oftentimes causing what has been called a cultural genocide. Here in higher education, we also have to recognize that education itself has been a system of cultural oppression and in many ways continues to be a system of cultural oppression. At the University of Alaska Anchorage system, we've been looking at how we might be able to revamp the university in order to better support our students and unpack the systems of cultural oppression that still exist within our educational system. However, I would like to recognize that our university system is based in a European American model and oftentimes clashes significantly with the students that we're aiming to serve. We know that cultural identity is protective, and in fact, across the state of Alaska and indeed across the world, there have been many culture as intervention models that have been effective in preventing behavioral health issues and addressing behavioral health disparities. In the state of Alaska, we have many culture as intervention models and community and tribe-specific interventions. We wanted to understand, could we help support our students with their own cultural identity development here at the university? And we understand that university programming might be very promising. The time in which students are generally in the university hits at a developmental time period when students are significantly forming their cultural identities. It's also a setting where students come into contact with people of many different cultural backgrounds and therefore also have to grapple with their own identities. However, at the University of Alaska Anchorage, we have students, Alaska Native students from so many different cultures. And as Amber just went over with you, we have so many different cultures represented in the state. Alaska Native people have no uniform culture across all of them. There are many different individual community cultures and larger cultural groups. And so we needed to understand how could we develop a project that would be relevant for Alaska Native students of many different cultural backgrounds. And so in 2017 to 2018, I was approached by staff in Native Student Services about how we might be able to develop a project that would help support our students with their cultural identity development. And so together we developed a community advisory board who would oversee this project, especially with me as a European American person who was brand new to the state of Alaska in 2017. It was very important that we had our project be overseen by people who had real experience in this work and much more wisdom to offer. And so our community advisory board was made up of Alaska Native people in very many different roles around the university and in our community. Made up of folks from Native Student Services, Amber is here today, as well as undergraduate and graduate students. JC is now a member of our community advisory board. And then community members who have been involved in identity development and witnessing identity development among the people that they're working with. We also developed a project team. So there's me and then two wonderful PhD students within our program, both JC and Tiara presenting here today. And through the work of the Community Advisory Board, we had nominations for elders to impart cultural wisdom with our students. And so we put together a wonderful set of elders from many different cultural groups around the state to provide input and oversight in this project. And finally, we partnered with folks around the university system in order to make this work happen. In particular, we worked with a wonderful digital tool called ePortfolio that's run through Digication in order to make sure that students were able to reflect on their identities in a way and record them in a way that they could share them with others.
In order to inform project development, we conducted a needs assessment involving focus groups with Alaska Native college students or university students. The approach we use to data collection and analysis is based within transformational grounded theory within a decolonizing Indigenous framework. 20 students participated in the focus groups that we held on campus, and students really came from all across Alaska and represented many different cultural groups and many different areas of study. For data collection, we held 7 focus groups, and each focus group lasted about 2 hours. In the focus group, we asked students to describe their identity and just to describe themselves in general. We asked students how they learned or how they developed their identity and the strengths that their cultural identity provided them. We also asked students how the university system in which they live and go to school helps support their cultural identity and clash or challenge with their cultural identity. For data analysis, we really approached it with a team-based collaborative approach based in transformational grounded theory methods. Regarding the results of the focus groups, first there was the impact of the university system. So students reported that having the ability to connect with other Alaska Native students or faculty supported their cultural identity. Also having the ability to engage with their culture on campus or at the university and also learn about their culture was really supportive of cultural identity. Another supportive element was that students felt that it was important for them to have little pockets of Indigenous space throughout the university, as well as kind of experience a sense of home. Conflicting elements of the university included experiences of being stereotyped or experiencing prejudice, lack of representation among other Alaska Native students or professors, faculty, difficulty engaging in culture, and conflicts with the larger westernized education system, as well as difficulty navigating the urban setting. When we asked students how they identify or describe themselves, students reported personal characteristics. They reported really identifying with their family. For example, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, with their community and tribe, with the region in Alaska that they're from. Some students reported identifying with a sense of history and also with specific Alaska Native corporations. The last bit that we really asked students about was the developing cultural identity piece. And when we did ask students, they reported that they were able to develop their cultural identity through storytelling or didactic instruction, through experiential learning, through connection with other people, through personal exploration, which occurred at various points across the life, and with the ability to share their culture with other people.
So this brings us to the work we have been doing over the past year and into this year, utilizing what we know about the protective and healing benefits of a strong cultural identity and what the focus group participants shared. We were able to help create what is now known as the Cultural Identity Program, alongside Alaska Native elders from various cultural groups across the state. Elders are super important because they are highly valued in Alaska Native culture and seen as wisdom bearers, so their incorporation into this project was vital. The elders facilitate this 8-week program, which was initially planned to be in person, but is now on Zoom. It has group and individual components, storytelling with the elders, experiential learning, such as meeting and visiting elders, connection with other members through talking circles, which are traditional practice that many Alaska Native groups acknowledge, and personal exploration and identity sharing via ePortfolio, which I will show you an example of later. So each of those 8 weeks, we focus on a specific topic. These topics were chosen by the elders and research team based on traditional wisdom, existing literature, and local data from the focus group. These topics include the real human being or self, our relatives, our land, which includes both community and tribal identity, becoming aware, which is a discussion on regional history, historical trauma, and healing justice, what you are known for, which focuses on cultural gifts and strengths, becoming, which is a discussion on our life paths and how our gifts and strengths influence these, vision, or how we plan to contribute to our Native communities, and last but not least, story, which is a culmination of all the students' hard work, where we share our identity journeys with one another and celebrate our time together. The students have the option of processing their identity journeys on ePortfolio with a cultural identity template that we created specifically for the program, complete with prompts and examples. You can see that the different topics were centered here on the different drop-down options. This program is entirely customizable by the students. You can see an example here of one that I customized. Everything from font to the photos to the videos uploaded are customized. All right, so here's some of the methodological details. It is a randomized control trial following a stepped wedge design. The way this works is we can offer the intervention, the cultural identity program, to both groups at different times. This leaves us with data on both an intervention group and a control group, with both groups eventually getting the intervention. Right now, we have 44 Alaska Native University students currently participating. They range in age from 18 to 54, are mostly women with varying number of years in university and a breadth of various in strengths of Alaska Native cultural identification. So some folks come in with a really strong cultural identity, others do not, and then everywhere in between. We are collecting quantitative data at 4 time points, pre-program and post-program each semester, with questions assessing cultural identity, cultural strengths, sense of community with Alaska Native peoples at the university, mental health, substance use, and academic achievement and persistence. We will also collect qualitative data via focus groups with participants after they complete the program.
So as we're finishing up our evaluation, we're going to be doing both an outcomes evaluation and a process evaluation. We'll be looking to integrate our qualitative and quantitative results to understand, is our program helping students to develop their cultural identities and understand their cultural strengths, as well as promoting their sense of community with other Alaska Native people in the university system, and ultimately, is that impacting their behavioral health and well-being. Our process evaluation will involve looking at students' experiences in the program, what they deemed as most useful or helpful, what aspects of the program they more readily participated in than others, and what aspects they would like to change. Our focus groups also include the elders who are facilitating this program to get their perspectives on what should be potentially modified in the program. And then, of course, anything that we do decide to modify will be bringing back to our advisory board for their oversight and making modifications and then testing our modified program again. Our ultimate goal is to create a course at the university focused on cultural identity development. And of course, we need to engage with many stakeholders and look at funding mechanisms, as well as garnering continued interest over time from many people within the university system to make that happen. We'd like to leave you with a couple of considerations if you're considering taking on a project like this yourself. The first is to build partnerships takes a good amount of time and requires flexibility on behalf of all of the partners. Stakeholders provide very distinct and necessary perspectives, and so taking time to understand your stakeholders and who you need to engage in projects like this is very important. Community research partnerships should capitalize and build on the capacities of all partners. And researchers and community partners may function at different speeds. And so transparency among all partners and expectations for the community research process is very important. Finally, the needs, strengths, and desires of everyone involved in a team may change over time. And so your partnerships need to be responsive to that.